We are live. We are live. We are live. We're live on Parliament Hill. It's been a while, everybody. It's been a while. How are you feeling, Francis?
I'm feeling great.
Amazing, amazing. We're gonna.
Oh, sorry, is that my?
No. I'm just gonna use it as like a
Okay,
hands.
okay. I just gotta see if I can find the other participants, which are
Okay.
some are
Uh,
located.
Maybe we should set up now. What do you guys think?
We need to find where the flag is.
Where is the flag? We've been told they're gonna raise a pride flag. Um, I see a pink backpack. Not quite sure. Not quite sure. But we're hanging out here on Parliament Hill. We just did an interview between Francis Widdowson and Mia Hughes. How's the audio, guys? Is the audio okay?
Hey there, over here now.
In chat, guys, in chat, let me know. Let me know if the audio, if you can hear the audio. Let me know if you can hear the audio. Audio. Where are people walking? Is the question. Yeah. Good idea. Good idea. How's the audio, guys? Can you hear it? Does the mic work? Loud and clear. Perfect. Perfect. So the question today is, can you be born trans? And we're here with Francis Widdowson. We're here with Mia Hughes, two very intelligent professors. They've gotten in hot water for, asking good questions about transgenderism and that sort of thing. And we planned this kind of event today. And what do you know? They're raising the pride flag today, apparently. They're raising the pride flag, and we're kind of wondering where this actual pride flag raising is going to go. There's not too many people on Parliament Hill here right now, but you can kind of see the scene, the good old fashioned wall, the perpetually under construction Parliament Hill. Hey, yeah, it's this way, guys. Hey, Mia, we're live. How are you?
Hello, how are you?
I'm fantastic.
You see the lady here? She's got a sign, Pride Season Event. That's us. That's where we're
Okay.
going.
Pride season event. Perfect.
I
Perfect.
assume, do you think it's this flagpole here? Because that's not a Canadian flag, right?
I'm not sure.
So,
Is it just over that way?
yeah, follow the edge of the flag. Okay, thank you.
Okay, great, great, fantastic.
I love this.
What's going through your mind right now? What are you feeling? You said this is your first flag raising, pride flag raising event.
It is. It's my first time, and honestly, I've always wanted to attend one of these. I do regret that I missed the Trudeau years because that would have been hilarious. But this is, to me, they have no idea what this flag symbolizes. They think that it symbolizes tolerance and inclusivity when it's the flag of homophobia, misogyny, and the atrocious medical abuse of children. So I find it's just so dark that they raise it on Parliament Hill every year. And I've always wanted to see the ceremony that goes with it.
Yeah, I remember. This is back in 2020. It was Pastor Archer Boblowski. He gave this a great speech during a protest, and he pointed over to the Prime Minister's office, and he made a comparison to the Nazis. He said, "You know what Hitler did when he got in? He put up his own flag. He didn't put up the nation's flag. He put up his own flag, and that's what they're doing with this rainbow stuff." So that was kind of his hot take on it, right?
Yeah, because I mean, it's a human rights violation not to fly the flag. Remember the town in Ontario, the town of Emo? They
Yeah.
had a human rights complaint against them for not flying the flag. So it's not a sign of, that you're supporting these people willingly. It's it's authoritarian and you're forced to do so.
You're forced to do it.
Otherwise, they'll bring you up on a human rights violation. So no, they're not. They're bullies, and they like to force everybody to pledge allegiance to their, frankly, dangerous and devastating movement. But their days are numbered. It's almost over. They don't realize it yet, but it's true.
I like that attitude. I like that attitude. It's almost over. It's almost time to wrap this whole thing up. we've had our fun. We've confused enough children now. I think it's time for, grown up to show up and kind of,
But
you know,
I think no one here knows that. Let's look at the crowd. I don't think anyone here, apart from us, knows that it's almost over.
Right. All right, we're arriving at the ceremony. Here we go. Hey, hi. Yeah. I don't have.
Are you
Do we need a
with
badge
the
or?
PSPN or the government, Federal Public Service?
Um,
Yeah, it's
Okay.
accredited media only. Sorry.
Accredited media only?
Yeah, you're
Okay.
welcome to just hang out on the side and you can
Sure.
be out there. You're
All
welcome.
right. I'm with Dacey Media. I'm with Dacey Media. Shout outs to Chris Dacey. He's here somewhere. Is he in there? I think we can go over here, right? Yeah. How's it going? I'm not credited media, so I can't go in there.
Should I come on the other side with you?
It's totally up. If you want to just stay inside, you can stay inside the gate, I think. Yeah, you can go in. You're fine. You're fine. I'm not legit enough, guys. Not cool enough. Whoa.
Ces célébrations, j'invite le grand baryton canadien Mark Wilkinson à entonner le haut canon.
O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot in all of us command, out of grâce et porté il s'est porté la croix. Ton histoire est une épopée des plus brillants exploits. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Merci Marc, je pense qu'on n'aurait pas fait mieux, n'est-ce pas, le talent est au rendez-vous.
Do you want to commentate?
J'aimerais accueillir Dylan Jenkins, donc il est le gardien du savoir vie spirituelle pour débuter la cérémonie.
No one here knows what that flag means. No one knows.
What do you think they think it means?
They think it means what the original pride flag meant, the tolerance of an oppressed minority. And it was about acceptance, and it was about including everyone. This flag is about exclusion, it's about the authoritarian control of speech, it's about homophobia, it's about misogyny, and it's about the atrocious medical abuse of children and adolescents in gender clinics, and none of them have any idea. Do I see Christopher Well?
I don't know. I don't recognize him.
Confederacy in the Lean Lavallee, Métis Nation, Red River. It's an honor always to be here with everyone, and we prep before we come here just like anyone else. We sit with our medicines and we listen. That's what our elders remind us, just to sit and listen, because the universe has a way of telling you and reminding you. And when I was sitting with my medicines, I was reminded.
Medicines.
find it. But when Creator decided that it was time to make the humans, and he had already created all of the natural world, and this was his one last piece of art. And he summoned all of the animals, all the creatures came, and he said to them, I'm creating the humans, and I need some advice, because we always count them. He said, I have a very special sacred gift for the humans.
We're trying to figure out how to get in here.
Very powerful.
They stop us at the gate.
But I don't want them to find it until they are ready. And so first Eagle spoke up and said, you know, Creator, I am going to take whatever this gift may be, and I will fly above the trees, and I will even take it to Grandmother Moon.
She's just sitting up on the wall here.
And then
But
Samuel
she has
spoke
to
up, and
find a
Samuel
place to
said,
sit.
I'll take it, and
I
I'll
think the
swing
best
into the
bet would be
dates
that we
and
just go over there and
I'll
sit.
bury it here
Wait for
like I
you
did with my
after.
eggs.
Okay.
They won't find it there. And then Buffalo spoke up and said, well, if you give it to me, I will take it to the plains, and I will bring it out there, and I will bury it into the ground. They will never find it there. And then Bear said, hey, you know, Creator, maybe I'll take it, and I will take it to the forests, and I will hide it in the trees. They will never find it there. The Creator said, well, thank you. I appreciate your counsel. But they will find it. You see, because they are going to want to become like birds. Testing. So they are going to want to become like birds. And they're going to fly into the heavens because they think that's where they're going to find it. And they'll even get to the moon. So that won't work. Well, what if... Oh, no. No, we can't do the oceans because they're going to be... They want to become like fish. And they're going to go there and they're going to drill down as far as they possibly can because they think that is where they're going to find the truth. So no. And then Buffalo, no, they will go out to the plains and they will drill down. They will cut the skin of Mother Earth because they think that is where they're going to find it. And Bear, no, they're going to go into the forests and they're going to cut down the trees. And you can't even give it to your brother, the white bear, up in the north, because they'll get up there too, and they'll think they're going to find it there, and they'll chase away the white bear. Very sacred bear, you know. And then Grandmother Mole, who cannot see but has the gift of spiritual sight, had a very sacred relationship with Creator and said, Creator, what is this gift that you are talking about that is so powerful and so special? He said, Grandmother,
Yeah.
it is truth.
Well, it's interesting.
And she said, oh.
This is Francis Widdowson with her commentary.
Okay, so it's interesting with the
When they have the courage.
Pride celebrations. Is there's quite a large overlap between Indigenous kinds of political developments and the LGBTQ, and actually the two-spirit aspect is part of this. So, and there's still kind of arguments about where this two-spirit idea came from, but evidently you can't be non-Indigenous and have two-spirit. It's a total Indigenous thing. And we had the 2S element that was actually incorporated into the whole initialism, LGBTQ2S, etc., etc. So this knowledge keeper, this is a knowledge keeper that's been brought out here to provide us with some Indigenous insights.
What's a knowledge keeper?
A knowledge keeper is someone who's been designated. So you have to be designated. Not every, and it's usually some political process which has determined this. Anyway, they give. It's like a spiritual figure that gives some element of supernatural, like reference to the supernatural that's brought in.
They're like an indigenous pope.
Yeah, but it's much less regimented than like a pope has got all sorts of institutional things, whereas a knowledge keeper, it's basically whatever political entity that's in place has decided that this person is representative of some kind of knowledge.
Okay, I'm gonna unplug the mic. My favorite song. I don't know. Woo! Yeah! Yeah! Woo!
And so it is, and so it shall be. Aho, let's celebrate.
There's like so much space. Can you just like speak?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Very, very inspiring and touching. Sage.
Sorry, I didn't mean to scream in your ear.
Merci
Sorry about that.
infiniment,
It came out of nowhere.
J'invite à l'instant le très honorable Premier ministre Mark Carney à donner le coup d'envoi à cette fierté du Canada.
He's here.
Merci beaucoup. Merci tout le monde. Merci Marie-Gabrielle. Thank you, Mark, for that incredible rendition of our national anthem, and Dylan for an extraordinary way to begin this gathering in the right way, under the flag of the rainbow, and the truth inside of us being revealed.
What about the other
I'd like
flag?
to celebrate all members of Parliament and their colleagues who are joining us today to celebrate Pride, to celebrate the diversity that makes Canada unique, that makes our country strong. Voix autant d'élus de différents partis rassemblés pour voir ce drapeau être porté par le vent. C'est un symbole fort. Un message d'unité en soutien des droits et libertés de chaque Canadien et Canadienne. You know, our country, like the flag, is a mosaic. We're all different, we all have our distinctions, we're all Canadian. And one of our strengths in Canada is recognizing that people can be who they want to be, they can love whom they want to love, they can live where they want to live. The federal government, on whose seat we are the defender of those rights. We are the defender of our Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And as we gather today in a moment to raise a flag in recognition of those rights, it's more than 40 years since the Charter was first signed right here on Parliament Hill. We should recognize the progress that has been made that is both powerful but also sometimes precarious. 22 years ago, on this very day, June 10, 2003, the Ontario Court of Appeal issued a decision that immediately legalized equal marriage for same-sex couples in Ontario. I remember that feeling on that day. And 20 years ago this month, the Parliament of Canada passed the Civil Marriage Act, making Canada one of the first countries in the world to recognize and make marriage equality the law of the land. Pride is a celebration of how far we have come. It's a celebration of how, in many important ways, love has already won. But pride is also a promise to ensure that justice, security, and dignity will always be demanded, defended, and delivered. Pride is a promise. It is a promise to every young person, regardless of their identity, that they'll be able to walk through their school doors without being afraid of whether they can get safely through their day. It's a promise to every couple who wants to show affection, to be able to hold hands in public without looking over their shoulders. It's a promise to every Canadian that they will be respected, that their rights will be protected, that you will be safe in your own community and proud in your own skin. Ces engagements reflètent nos valeurs. Au Canada, chacun a sa place. Chacun est libre d'être soi-même. Lorsque chacun d'entre nous peut réaliser son plein potentiel, s'exprimer, contribuer à notre économie et à nos communautés, le Canada est plus fort. When we stand up for all the rights of all our fellow Canadians, we strengthen our own. In a time where, unfortunately, around the world, there's a backlash struggling against the progress that has been made. In this time, Canada will always stand up for the vulnerable and for the equal rights that we cherish. Yes, we can take pride in how far we've come, but we should also recognize that there is much more to do. Far too many Canadians continue to face hatred and discrimination because of just who they are and whom they love. And that's why Canada's new government is supporting Fiancé Canada Pride to ensure and help have successful and safe Pride celebrations across this land. And we are making, this is not an announcement for today, it's an announcement for time. We're making funding permanent for the Two-Spirit LGBTQI plus Community Capacity Fund to support community protect our rights and advance equality across our country. Nous allons établir un nouveau programme de fécondation in vitro qui rendra ces traitements plus abordables. Nous allons également augmenter le financement du programme d'aide internationale qui, à travers le monde, permet de lutter contre la persécution des personnes qui ont des orientations sexuelles ou des identités de genre diverses. Now, today marks the start of a series of events, marches, and celebrations. And Canada will be strengthened by those events, by those celebrations, by the solidarity and courage that they sometimes have to represent. We will be strengthened by those acts. You know, Aristotle once taught that virtue is like a muscle that grows with exercise. We become just by doing just acts, brave by doing brave acts, empathetic when we show empathy. When we are kind, kindness grows. When we are Canadian, Canada grows. Pride is Canadian.
All right, I wanted to sit down,
Celebrate Pride today through this month, through every month, week, day, hour of the year, together for an even stronger and fairer Canada. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much.
Le Premier ministre du Canada, Mark Carney. Alors que le Premier ministre citait les backlash qui peuvent menacer les sociétés qui tentent de s'incliner vers le progrès, J'ai le très très grand plaisir de vous présenter une femme ô combien déterminée à mener ses luttes, la très honorable ministre Richie Valdez.
Well, good morning, everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. How are we doing today? Happy Pride? That's what I'd like to hear. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge that I'm joining you from the traditional and unceded territory of the Algonquin Nation. We're grateful to live, work, and gather on this land. And also, I want to thank Dylan Jenkins for being with us today as our knowledge keeper. And Dylan said something very important. Yes, let's give him a round of applause. He absolutely deserves it. He said something really important in his opening. He said, walking in our truth. And in order for us to do that,
Do you want to make some commentary?
Yes.
Sure, one
Thank
second.
you so much. So my name is Richie Valdez, and I'm honored to serve as
So,
Minister
what were your
of
thoughts
Women
on
and Gender
Carney's
Equality,
speech?
Secretary of State for
She's
Small
outrageous.
Business
Yeah.
Development.
She's the what?
She's the Minister of Women and Gender
She's the Minister of Women and Gender Equality, but she said something about truth, walking in our truth. And what does that mean to have walking in, like, what are they talking about? And what you'll notice when you use the word truth, they don't mean truth the way it is typically defined, which is some kind of universal understanding of reality. They mean what they believe to be true. So if a man who's a sperm producing individual believes that they're a woman, that is that person's truth that everyone should affirm. And that's where we've gone terribly wrong with all of these initiatives, is that, as Mia said, we need to be tethered to reality. And this is a complete untethering from reality, which is a serious problem. Because if we don't have a common reality, then anything goes. And we have, I was just talking to Albert and Robin about the non-binary surgery that the Ontario Ministry of Health has had to pay for, because there's a man who wants to keep his penis but also have a vagina dug out of his insides and then have a colon inserted, and that's his truth or her truth or its truth or whomever, that he is both female and male and needs manufactured genitalia from both sexes. It's really quite shocking. But that's what you have when you have no truth, no universal truth, and it's just whatever people believe. Then you have monstrosities like the kind that we're seeing today being celebrated. Like this flag that's being they're rising up. That is a symbol of unbelievable dysfunction that is being celebrated. And we need to stop this. And these politicians, they are going to be held to account for everything they've done to foment and enable this contagious. Like, listen to this. These people are just cheerleaders for something they don't even understand.
They've got no
because pride for all our celebration must be safe for everyone.
I heard a Paul McHugh quote recently, and it was, if you make the truth whatever I say it is, then it means that whoever has the power to define truth will assert their own way of seeing the world, when truth is not tethered to reality. And Canada has been in that world for 10 years, where people with serious psychiatric problems, paraphilic desires, and an anti-reality way of thinking have been the ones who have asserted what is true. And we're here right now to see the raising of the flag that symbolizes that. But I do think that, as I said on the way in here, their days are numbered. The backlash that Carney was talking about, it's real, and they're not going to stop it because they've done so much harm to so many people in society, not just children, but women, LGB, ironically, the backlash is going to continue. It's going to get stronger, and eventually we won't have this flag being raised on Parliament Hill.
Sure that absolutely no one in this country is left behind.
Yeah, that raises a question about left behind. Like, you have mental illness, you have a mental illness, you get your body parts chopped off, and you still have the mental illness. So if you ever want to really leave someone behind, then that's how you're going to do it. So we're just not thinking rationally about this matter, and hopefully today we'll at least make some effort to say,
For leading with courage and for showing us what it means to build a more inclusive Canada together.
well, you can go somewhere else.
Enjoy the celebrations right
No,
now.
you're imposing your space on everyone else. Well, you can move away. It's a free country. No, I'm not going anywhere else. Yeah, I'm. Go ahead. It's a free country.
How are we being? You are being really disruptive right now. This person is you're talking about sort of everybody sort of you're raising your voice. Yeah, yes I am.
Yeah. Anyway, we're here and we're just raising our objections to this monstrosity that's going on. And if people don't like it, well, they're entitled to raise their objections.
We're not exactly being disrupted. Nobody around can hear us.
No, he's listening in on our conversation.
He's being more disruptive.
So like whatever, like it's fine. Like this is everyone can express their views. If people, I don't agree that's hateful. I think that it's being tethered to reality is not hate. And people are suffering terrible damage because of this ideology. And the fact that we have celebration that's going on all the time about this.
It needs to be called out. It needs to be challenged.
Exactly. And this is a public space. This is our parliament. Our parliament is being taken over by ideological forces, and we're just commenting on it.
I'd really like to know if they'd be willing to fly the green, white, and purple flag that symbolizes women's rights and that women are female. I wonder if they'd be willing to fly that flag here. If not, why not?
Yeah, I didn't even know that was a flag.
It was the suffragette flag, but we've taken it because this is suffragette 2.0. This is, once again, women have to fight for the right to be recognized as human beings, distinct from men, and so we adopted the suffragette flag. It would be great if they would fly that for a month on Parliament Hill.
Yeah, I think it's best just to get rid of all the flags.
I think so too.
We're gonna just have endless flags. I think the Canadian flag makes sense because it is Canadian Parliament, and so. Oh, okay. Go ahead. So you can remember who I am, and you, Mia.
Terrified.
But I think that yeah, I know. It's like, well, like I'm not afraid of whatever they're gonna do. But the Canadian flag is a geographical symbol, so.
And it's inclusive.
And it can be whatever you can just kind of having arguments about what Canada should be, but that flag is a terrible flag. That is that's not even the pride flag. That's called the progress flag.
Every gay and lesbian person I know hates that flag.
Yeah, I know. I do.
They're not. They have no right to same-sex attraction.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Someone's recording you.
Well, we're here. We can.
In our workplace, in our schools, and among friends. Let's celebrate the differences that make our society so vibrant and welcoming, because as we always say, silence is not an option. I will conclude.
Silence is not an option.
That some of us dream of the day when the
I think these people should be embarrassed about what they're doing.
Will be replaced by the
and they're just muttering platitudes that they think. And this is going to have terrible consequences.
Everyone will be included in this work. Queer community members, allies, families, friends, so that love
How does it feel to be in the lion's den?
over hatred.
I might know. It's
So on
good.
behalf of my
I think
colleagues
this is where you have to go.
Live streaming?
I
Is this
invite
live?
you to be joyful and proud of who you are. Be who you want to be and love who you want to love. Soyez qui vous voulez être.
Yeah, so
Et aimez
this is
qui vous
piggy
voulez
blanking
aimer.
on the gay
Happy
rights
Pride
thing.
Month.
So no one is saying you can't love who you want to love.
Well, they are though, because the trans rights movement makes it so
Oh,
that lesbians are not allowed to be lesbian. They're
Oh,
not
that's
allowed to be
true.
same-sex attracted.
Oh,
They have to be attracted to the men who say that they're
Oh,
women
yeah.
who think that they're lesbians, and the same vice versa.
Yeah,
With,
yeah, that's
with
true.
women who think they're men are invaded in gay men's spaces. So, okay, sure. Is the flag going up? Is this it?
Oh, they're just gonna be raising it. I see. Okay, then aren't we supposed to play RuPaul or something? Play a RuPaul song? He knows how to work a pole, that's for sure.
Et voilà, il flotte, il est coloré, il est
It's a
joli.
pun, guys. It's a pun.
Thank you
Relax.
everyone for coming here today. I will now invite all the participants to approach the podium for an
Did I?
additional photo. Thank you so much.
Amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Should we stick to the plan of going at 11?
It's to be sent out by the time everyone comes up.
Sure. Should we go now? You want to go now? Okay,
Okay.
let's go now.
J'aimerais vous
Awesome.
présenter Kai.
We're gonna go set up now.
S'il vous plaît. Mes plus grandes excuses.
I don't know if the security guard's being right behind me is a coincidence or what, but. What, the security guys?
Yeah.
That's interesting. To be fair, I did kind of heckle a few times. I did like yell.
It's like I turned around and all of a sudden there was like 5 parliamentary police behind us. I was like, what the heck?
Amazing. Hey, how's it going? We're live on YouTube right now. How's it going? Do you want to be live on YouTube and share your thoughts on the ceremony? No? Okay.
All right. So any thoughts about where we want to set our mats up?
What if we just did it right here?
That's the kind of thing that don't have a permit, they can remove you.
Okay.
We could try and get removed, I guess.
I would ask.
You don't ask the guys to do it
And then they remove you.
I think we should do it.
I think we should do it. Yeah, I think we should do it.
We will definitely get kicked.
Yeah, it's better to beg
But
for
then we
forgiveness
can
than to ask for permission.
We can corral people over here,
Okay.
you know? And there'll be like a.
Yeah, no, I think this is a good spot.
All right, so we should do it so you can like read them this way, right? Like you can read the different ones. You know what I mean? Yeah, horseshoe this way, like this. All right. Okay, so there's another presenter right now, I guess. And sorry, I know that camera angle's not good.
With our neighbors to the south. And so one of the things that I wanted to say as we enter into the transition is that I want everyone to fight this movement because I know that we are fighting.
Oh, I don't know what to say, guys. I don't know what to say. It's weird. It's weird being at one of these demonstrations. It's weird seeing this. I thought what was emblematic was Carney said, "Canada equals pride," or to be Canadian is to be prideful. So it's just a more amalgamation of different words. Yes.
So we're starting off with the street epistemology situation here, which is we got these mats which we're going to lay out, and they go from strongly disagree to strongly agree, and there's neutral. So if you don't know anything about this and you're thinking, well, we don't exactly know what this is about, then you'd be on neutral. And then what we're going to do is we're going to get.
Hey, yo, Dan or somebody. Sorry, can you start over?
Yeah.
Let's get this in H.
Sure.
Start recording.
Okay.
Oh, cool. Okay, for sure. Yeah.
Okay. So what we're doing, we're going to start the street epistemology session, which has these mats, 7 mats, and they have strongly disagree on one side, strongly agree on the other, and then neutral in the center. And what we do is we make a claim, and the fundamental claim for this event is people can be born trans. So that is the claim. And I know that Mia Hughes has some views on this, but we also have Robin Collins, who is going to be doing this exercise as well. And any hangers, any people who just come by who want to just kind of have their thoughts, they want to state their thoughts. And I think it's important to have, difference of opinions that you're going to be expressed at this kind of event, because this is very much a political event. And it's important to be able to express disagreement with a dominant position that's being put forward. And in fact, we actually have a flag that's being raised, so everyone's supposed to be celebrating. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these around in a horseshoe.
Yep. Let's do strongly agree.
Yep.
Right?
Strongly agree. Okay.
Yeah, horseshoe. So like this. Slightly, yeah, okay.
I'm going to move you over.
There it is. There it is. Hey there. Anyone interested in answering the question, can you be born trans? We're doing a thought experiment over here. Hey everyone, we're doing a thought experiment. Can you be born trans? If you want to come over and do the thought experiment, can you be born trans? Just come over here to the left, participate in the thought experiment. Can you be born? Hey, anyone want to participate in the thought experiment? Can you be born trans? Can you be born trans? We're doing a thought experiment. Can you be born trans? Do you want to participate, sir? Hi there. We're doing a thought experiment today. Can you be born trans? And yeah, if you want to participate, you step on one of the.
I just have to.
Okay.
Yeah, I just have to go.
Hey guys, I'm gonna ask you to remove the sign over there.
They're just mats. They're just mats. Hey, gentlemen, we're doing a "Can you be born trans" thing. Okay, cool, cool. Do you guys want to participate? Answer the question. Can you?
You're gonna have to remove your mat from the.
I mean, they're just mats. We can pick them up in no time.
This is charter, right? Like we have a freedom of speech.
It's the content. So because you guys are taking over the event that's taking place in front of you.
We're not taking over.
We're
No.
outside
of the event here.
Just let me explain. Because you guys are going for the people who are trying to come in here and try to
Yep.
get them to come, and while they're doing their event, we're just going to ask you that you move to the lawns to allow them to actually leave without being impeded with.
Well, I feel like we're off to the side here. Like if they want to leave, they can totally just go that way.
For the stuff on the ground. This is technically for tours. This is not for events. I'm just asking you to move to the lawns. That's it.
So
I'm asking you to leave Parliament Hill. I'm asking you to move to the lawns
you have to go to the lawns.
if you can.
What if we like hold the mats up?
It's still to the lawns if possible. Because
Okay.
the event is complete. So I'm just asking you guys to go to the lawns.
Okay.
That's it.
All right. So I guess we're getting kicked out.
Not being kicked out of Parliament Hill, asking to be moved to the lawns.
And then when we
Okay.
get to the lawns, what's going to happen? Are we going to get
Nothing.
kicked off
You
the
can
lawn?
absolutely have your
Okay.
event on the lawns. That's it.
All right.
They asked for a permit to be here at
I'm
this location.
allowed to talk to people and ask them
That's
questions, right?
Absolutely. On
Okay,
the
great.
lawns.
Awesome. Awesome.
So we're not going to be approached by anyone on the lawn saying you have.
That didn't last very long.
Yeah. Well, we can.
Well, let's go set up out there.
This is crowd control kind of stuff.
Yeah, sure. That didn't last very long. No, he said we didn't have the match down, would we still be able to
It's still like this event is completed, so the permit is now finished for this event. So we're just asking that any other event happen on the lawn. If you want to be in this spot, you would have had to ask for a permit.
If we came here on any other day, would we be allowed to do this, or is it just
If you ask for a permit to hold an event here to do a vlog
on the concrete because it's concrete
in front of the Visitor Welcome Center, which is where the tours are being accessed for Parliament Hill.
But is it really an event if we're just talking to people with our phones? Like, I don't understand why it becomes an event. Is it because of like the content of what we're doing?
Not content. That's what I'm trying to say. Like they asked to be here for a permit, so this section is reserved for this event right now. That is it. So they're doing the tear down, and that's all I'm saying.
So, can we do it like next to the flame? All right, great. Thanks a lot. I think next to the flame is good.
Will interfere is if there's something that escalates, then yes, PBS will talk and make sure both parties are safe and everybody's good. Our goal is peaceful, lawful, safe. It's not to kick anybody off of Parliament Hill, just to be clear. I'm just asking you to do it.
Doing it on the flame.
I didn't say you were. Makes sense. So yeah.
All right, cool.
Okay, thanks guys.
Thank you. Yeah. Could we? Sorry, one more question. Like, could we just go like down the sidewalk a bit, like
If
over
you
here?
guys can just go on the hill because that's where MPs are going to be active.
Wait, where does the hill start?
Sorry, on the lawns. West lawn, east lawn, center walk.
So past the black fence.
Yeah, that's the construction zone.
Okay. All right.
Thanks guys.
Yeah, could you maybe stake that out and see if I can catch up with her? I'd love to ask her. What?
Just after you.
No, if you see her coming, then we can try to.
I don't usually have
We need to figure that out. Where's Where did Francis go? Oh, she's right there.
Where are we going?
Do you want to do it at the flame, in front of the flame, or should we do it like over there on the sidewalk?
I think the flame is a good symbol.
Yeah. Okay.
Where is that? I don't even know where that
The thing is, I feel like there might just be tourists over there. Where if we go over here, I feel like we might get more people coming out of
that'd be good.
the flag thing.
Yeah, that'd be
You know what I
good to
mean?
get on the flag.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's just close up.
I think so. Yeah.
a bunch of construction workers around the closure.
Yeah. So let's do it like down here, I think.
Yeah. Because you're gonna catch the flow of people.
Yeah, and then it could be like, hey, were you at the flag racing?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. That was I liked how you.
Gonna add some. You were live right now. You wanna add some
Jeez. Oh wow. Extemporaneous. No, I mean the
Are
whole
you
time.
good?
Usually.
Are you gonna comment or
Yeah,
no?
I'll comment. Yeah. So usually the whole time I'm not like, oh, I gotta hold this. I don't have the compulsion to blurt stuff out. I don't care. Am I like I'm not gonna swear, but like the whole time I'm sitting there, I'm like thinking to myself, this is fucking gay, dude. like this is the state of our country where Mark Carney rolls up and they got a pride flag at the same height as the Canadian flag, yet underneath the orange.
What if we did it right here? Yeah.
Okay.
The shade. Yeah, through the shade.
All right, there we go. Well,
No. What were we gonna say? Last words?
Well, both of the flags are underneath the Indigenous flag that they have above.
Which is way higher.
Yeah. It's like, what kind of message is that sending to Canadians?
Indigenous is like 5 stories and on top of everyone. Yeah, pretty much. Did you want to share your thoughts? No. Hey guys, we're doing. Did you come from the flag raising?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
Great. This is perfect.
Going on the lawn.
Like
Oh,
you do
sorry.
yoga
Why not
at
over?
the Parliament.
We can't do it over here.
More central.
Issue though is for like pedestrian traffic.
Right.
No, that's it.
Yeah.
Barrier.
Can we not just?
Like what Peter says, do we have a sign which is the statement?
We don't have the sign, unfortunately.
To be honest, I thought it was Rachel Gilmore, and then I realized it was playing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you can't capitalize on the sidewalk, your charisma. Your
what?
charisma, big guy.
could maybe get some people to walk over. Yeah, you were talking.
Yeah, okay,
people
okay,
up,
sure.
yeah. I feel like there was.
Can we do the shade over there or no? I say we do it over there. What do you think?
Oh, I don't
Mia?
mind shade at all. Shade is good.
I think that's attractive to people, the shade, the sliver of shade.
So that's in the
And I think more people will be on the sidewalk too. Need to get that content, guys. Need to get that content. Hey, we're just doing a little demo here. That's fine, right? We were told on the other side of the fence and we're good. This is part of the lawn? Like this side of the black fence.
I think they may. We'll go find out.
Sure, sure, sure. That would be great. That would be great. All right, let's set them up. Let's line them up.
I know they're not going to want you guys along.
How do you, why? Just not
Just
allowed?
Proximity of the building, that type of stuff. We're going to get an answer though. So.
Okay, okay.
Boss man's coming right here. We'll get you.
boss man.
What piece of grass is this?
Or maybe it should be there because it's like you see it when you're walking out.
I mean, if that grass is fine, we're going to set up. We're going to grab an answer.
Okay, let's go to the, we're gonna go to the hydrant now. I'm sorry to do this. 'Cause it sounds like they're just gonna mess with us again. Like go like right here. Or you think we should tough it out here?
I think you talked
Let me see.
you. I can't remember.
Oh, look who it is. Hey, we're doing a thought experiment.
Huh?
We're doing a thought experiment today. We're asking the question, can you be born trans? Would you want to participate in that? You can say strongly agree, strongly disagree. You can kind of like, go from there.
I believe in Jesus. That every.
Yeah. I'm live on YouTube, if you don't mind.
I can speak in French.
Sure. But we're live on YouTube, if that's cool.
Okay, it's fine.
Okay, yeah. So, can you be born trans? Is the first question.
I believe in Jesus, so everyone is equal.
Yeah.
So if Jesus bring people to the planet, like we are equal. I cannot say yes, I cannot say no.
Yeah.
But I know everyone is equal.
Did you see the flag raising over there?
No, I came to visit, but it was closed. So.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, but we are all humans.
Yeah.
We are all in the same town, same country.
Yeah.
So I believe that we are equal.
Yeah. And when it comes, like, have you heard of like trans people or transgender people?
Yeah, I hear about that.
Yeah.
What is the question?
So, do you think people are born transgender?
I think Jesus is good and he know why he's doing things. I cannot say yes, I cannot say no, but I say we are unity, we are equal, we are the same, we live in the same country, I love everybody, so I cannot say yes. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks a lot. Hi, sir. We're doing a thought experiment today.
Well, I'm thinking I'm heading this way, but thank you anyway.
Okay. Is this okay?
He said that we can go to the center walkway.
Okay.
Yeah.
So can we do it on that sidewalk right there?
In the front over there.
Yeah, like in front of that walking sign, kind of next to the red fire hydrant. Yeah? Okay. Okay, let's do that. All right, we got the final answer here. I'll take those.
Is that your final answer?
Well, she just gave us the go ahead. We're going right over here. You gotta do it yourself, guys. Gotta do it yourself. All right, how do we make this fun? Let's make this fun. Let's make this symmetrical. I do have autism, so that helps. Is this the right order? Boom.
Strongly, slightly, neutral, slightly. That's right.
All right. I'll show you guys what I'm doing. All right. All right. I'll try to. I think behind the mats is good.
Get here.
Yeah, behind the mats, and then if you can, like you maybe step forward to talk to the person, and then once they go to a mat, like kind of step back.
And they're gonna, which way are they gonna face? This way?
That I guess kind of that way. Don't worry about where they're facing. Just keep facing this way to keep it consistent. How's it going? We're doing a thought experiment right now, and the question is, can you be born trans? You know what trans?
Classic question.
Yeah, and yeah, we are recording, but if you're comfortable, you can participate in it. You can say strongly agree, strongly disagree. Are you interested?
I just like watch others, okay.
Yes or no?
I just like watch others like for a few minutes.
Oh, you just want to watch?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool, for sure. Alrighty. Hi, we're doing a thought experiment today.
I'm sorry, I have to run.
Okay. Hey there, how's it going? Good. We're doing a thought experiment today with.
That's why I'm here.
Oh, nice. Did you want to participate?
Probably not the best person to participate.
Okay.
Like, I think you want the other side.
Right. Well, it'll be fun anyway. Like if you, now would be a good time to step in because we're trying to show people what it's all about, show people participating.
Yeah. The only concern I have is I'm in the middle of like I'm about to have a court case about my
Lucky you.
wrongful dismissal as a teacher. So
Oh my gosh.
I probably should stay
quiet. Yeah.
out.
Like I talk to so many people in Ottawa like this. I can't really speak freely because I got disciplined for having the wrong opinion, basically.
Yep. That's
Yeah.
pretty much what it is.
Well, thank you anyway. What's up?
Yeah, so many people like this. Typically, I guess I'm out of a job. My wife is gonna hesitate if I take.
Right. Can I record your voice? Or no? No?
I may jump in later.
Okay, cool. Okay.
Like, you're welcome to record my voice. That would keep my name out of it. But yeah, what do you want to know?
Well,
And
the thing is,
I've
I've been running around with my camera, so I don't know if like you might have come up on the background or something like that. Sure. Did you go to the egg raving?
No, I just arrived. I was late.
Oh no.
I was late to the party. I was planning on going to this event at Ottawa U just to watch.
I hate to do this. I might try to get some people. Yeah. Hi there. Sorry to interrupt. Did you guys go to the flag raising? Hello. Hello. Okay, I guess they're deaf. Maybe I don't know. I guess they're part of the LGD. D for deaf. I guess they were deaf or something. I guess they were snubbing me. How's it going, sir?
Good.
Good. We're doing a thought experiment today. Did you come from the flag raising? Oh.
No, not.
Did you want to do a thought experiment? Okay. Hey, how's it going? Hey guys, we're doing a thought experiment today. Did you come from the flag raising or? I don't think I've ever been snubbed so many times by snooty people in Ottawa. It's crazy. The snubs in Ottawa are like unparalleled. Yeah, I can't sleep at night because of the horrible things that I do and participate in. Cool. Hey guys, how's it going?
Hello, how you doing?
Good. Did you come from the flag raising? Awesome.
The Pride?
Yeah, the Pride flag raising. Yeah. So we're doing. I'm streaming thought experiment. Yeah. We're asking the question: can you be born trans? And you can say strongly agree, strongly disagree. And we have a couple. Would you like to participate? No. Well, the whole point is to start with that. Start with the question. Start with strongly disagree. And then we have a couple professors to kind of like walk us through like the reasoning from there. If that makes sense.
Is it fine if we can remain anonymous? Is that fine?
Could we record just your voice?
That works.
That works? Okay, sure, absolutely.
Okay.
So come on down.
Okay.
And your name is anonymous. So, all right. It looks like we have somebody, and I'm make sure I don't get you on camera. So yeah, just sit tight. This guy behind me doesn't want to be reported, but he can record his voice.
So,
So maybe just don't even cover this one, I guess. But we'll just keep you weighted for now while while we get through this person, if you don't mind.
And do you think that gender dysphoria and trans, like, is that the same thing?
I think that if you persist into adulthood,
Yep.
you might call yourself trans if your gender's work and it's never swayed and nothing has alleviated at all.
Yep.
But that is it. Like, you can. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. But yes, I think that if gender dysphoria persists into adulthood, there are people who would call themselves trans. But I don't believe in the literal definition of someone who is born in the wrong body.
Okay. I'm just trying to figure out how you guys are different from one another. You would just say gender dysphoria. It makes no difference whether it's gender dysphoria or not. That does nothing to do with it.
You see, there's two different questions there.
Okay.
So I think gender dysphoria is a real experience. People really do experience gender dysphoria.
Yep.
They feel a deep-seated discomfort with their sex characteristics.
Yep.
And there are various reasons why a person might feel that.
Yep.
But that's not innate. No baby is born with gender dysphoria. You feel the gender dysphoria in response to your social and cultural situation.
Yep.
And then trans is just a label that is very, very present and ubiquitous in our culture. And so people make sense of their feelings of distress through the label of trans. But there's absolutely no possible way that you're born that way.
Yes. So to say born means that you have babies that are trans.
No, not for me. For me, it would be a predisposition, at least, that might develop. And for me, gender dysphoria is not understand enough that I could definitely be swayed if there is evidence that showed either way that it is not something that comes from a predisposition.
So what kind of evidence would you require to move closer to Mia on this question?
I guess if we found a method to alleviate gender dysphoria that was somewhat successful and helped alleviate the dysphoria for people on a very constant basis. And as of right before puberty blockers, generally that was puberty.
Yep.
But still,
You've got some people who disagree.
Oh,
Want to
okay.
participate?
Yeah.
We should bring these guys
Yeah,
in.
exactly.
If we can.
Yeah.
Do we have participants? Shall we?
Can we get the next participant in?
Yep.
Sure.
Oh. Hold on. Sorry.
So am I right in thinking my microphone's not picking up? I have to talk into that?
I'm not sure.
Okay, but we'll just do your voice? Okay, cool. Yeah, so don't record this guy.
Her microphone is working, right?
Yeah, both are back recording. Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't have to talk into this. I'm good.
That's
Okay.
just for the
Sure.
Okay, so
This is just for the live.
So
So yeah, our next contestant is anonymous.
okay.
So I'm just recording the audio.
Okay, just the audio?
Yeah.
And so the claim is people are born trans. People can be born trans. And so in terms of your claim on this, would you see yourself as where would you fit on the mats in terms of the response?
That would be where she is.
Okay, so you strongly disagree that
Yeah.
people can be born trans.
I do.
Now go to the mat. Walk
Okay.
to the mat.
Okay. And so why would you put yourself on the strongly disagree, Matt, in terms of people can be born trans?
When a human is born, they are either born as a male or a female.
Okay.
Simple as that. You can't change that.
Okay. And in terms of evidence that you would need, like, would there be any evidence that would be provided that would make you move more towards the disagree or the slightly disagree?
I don't think
Matt?
there's any physical evidence whatsoever to support that. The only thing that is proven is to be born a hermaphrodite with both a penis and a vagina, which in that case, I would absolutely agree that gender dysphoria would be a thing as you were born with both genders.
Yeah.
And at that point, I guess you would be able to choose which one you want, or hell, keep both. But as basic elementary school biology goes. You're either born a male or a female, and if you want to change that, something happened in your past that you need to get resolved.
So, what do you think is the most convincing argument for people being born trans?
I don't think there is really any convincing argument. It's just basic science and biology. I mean, if people want to feel like there's something else when they're not, people are people. You can, if they feel like that, they can feel like that. It's none of my business.
Yeah.
But here we're talking about opinions, and in my opinion, no, it's just if I wanted to be a woman, but I was born a man, I'm sorry to say this to be a little crude, but you just have to suck it up. You are what you are, and I'm sorry, but again, it's only my opinion.
But
I respect others.
Yeah.
If you feel like you are a woman, all the power to you. Great for you. That's it.
As long as you stay out of women's faces.
Yes. Oh, yes. Oh, don't get me started. If you're a man and you say you're a woman, you're not going into a woman's bathroom. I'm sorry to say this.
Yeah.
You're not going to go into women's sports. That is biologically unfair.
Okay.
All the most recent records that have been broken by a trans athlete in women's sports were originally men. I don't think that's fair. I can't be the only one that thinks it's not fair that they are being broken by someone who wasn't even born a woman. Sorry.
I'm just thinking about the devil's advocate position here in terms of what I have heard many people, especially on the women's sports, the women's and when you have a person who's trans, and this is just using their definition, which is a person who's born male, but who believes that they're a woman and they're taking.
Faye Johnstone,
Oh,
doing a
I'm
thought
so
experiment.
good. I'm having a great day.
Can you be born trans? We're wondering.
Oh, you're so much fun, babes.
This should be like a simple question though, right? This should be a simple question, no? You're like a trans advocate. You're like the number one trans advocate. You know, everyone loves you. You are like you are like the trans Marvel superhero. So surely you can answer the question, can you be born trans?
I was born pretty. I don't know what your problem is.
It's not bad. That's not bad, but it's not like addressing the question. Like there should be an easy slam dunk, right? I'm a dumb conservative, right? I'm a dumb conservative. So tell me why you can or cannot be born trans. We want to know. The people want to know the science. Faye, we want to know the science. Tell us the science. Your bulge looks great today, by the way. I looked at Faye's bulge, guys. I'm not gonna lie. It happened. It was a moment. It was a moment of weakness. The trans Marvel superhero of Canada can't answer the question, are you born trans, yes or no?
I was this close. Faye was like, who are you with?
Who are you with? Yeah.
And then he saw you and was like, no.
Yeah. Just sucking on that cigarette. But hey, whatever, you know. They are doing their thing. It is what it is. I feel like you should have a good answer for that, though. If you're trans representative, yeah, you should have some cool answer, you know. But hey, it is what it is. Shout outs to Faye Johnstone in the chat. Thank you for that, by the way. Do you mind if I record you? Yeah.
So on the question,
You're on strongly agree.
people can be born trans. Yes. You're on the strongly agree mat. And so what makes you stand on the strongly agree mat?
Because I have worked in an industry where I closely work with trans, et cetera, And I have close relationships with people who I have known since childhood who have felt that they were in the wrong body. And I support my friends.
Okay.
Absolutely. But I am coming more from an angle of two spirit uh, as an energy, like male and female energy. You can be born with both. One presents more than the other,
Okay.
or equally. And as far as the previous commenter about you're born physically male or female, I agree biologically, but that your body doesn't represent your soul. It doesn't represent who you are
Okay.
as a person.
So let me see if I understand your position here. So you you agree that there's male and female sexes.
Yes, but I don't believe it's about sex. It's
Okay.
about the person,
Okay.
their soul, their energy, their being, who they are.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can have a female person who's of the female sex, but in terms of their energy, they're actually a man. They're a man.
More masculine energy.
Okay. And how do we determine the difference between having a masculine energy and just being someone who likes to engage in what would be typically considered to be male-oriented activities?
Can you repeat that question, please?
Yeah. So some women, um, and they're female sexually, but they like to do what would be considered to be masculine things, such as fixing cars and um, playing, like engaging in boxing and these sorts of things.
I don't see a problem with that.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. And I think it's individual. The person decides for themselves if they are gay, lesbian, or two spirit. Like it's their who they are.
When you had that situation of someone who was female sexually, who was doing masculine things, how and they didn't see themselves as being trans, they just say I like doing masculine things. How would you tell the difference between someone like that and someone who has this kind of male energy, I guess?
You get to know them and ask.
Okay.
And I don't think it matters. And again, I don't think it's about sex as in sex.
Yeah.
I think it's just you're going to be who you're going to be, and you should be able to be who you want to be. So if you're physically female, but you do masculine things like you said, like why is that a problem?
It's not a problem, but what I'm just trying to figure out that scenario.
Okay.
Versus someone who is trans and now wants to have some kind of hormonal or surgical kinds of procedures in the context of what we're talking about. I don't know, in looking at people who are female who do masculine things versus people who are female who say that they're actually got a male energy that needs to have some kind of intervention about that. How does one distinguish between those two things? I guess is kind of my just in trying to define the situation.
Someone who is physically looking at someone, and you're deciding how,
No,
or
how they do, how they make the determination.
well, I can only say the people and friends that I know. Um, it comes a little bit later in life when they realize that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like it's not.
So it's just their sense.
Yes.
So they say I feel I have I'm born female. I have ovaries and so on. That's the sex, but I feel that I have male energy.
Yeah.
And that would be a trans person.
No, not necessarily. They would have to define that for themselves.
Okay. So they would say I'm trans.
Or they don't even have to say anything, but right, the person, they're the ones who are the ones to, if they feel the need, to explain. I don't think it's automatically trans. There's lots of layers to it. But I don't think, like, why should it matter?
Well,
I know we're having the discussion, but I don't.
Well, maybe we'll have someone on the opposite side of the.
I just wanted to hear what was. Okay.
Oh yeah. No, but we want to. We like this is too far apart. So what we want to do is, the question is the statement is that you can be born female in terms of sex, but you can be trans in the sense that you feel that you have a male energy. Is that correct?
Essentially.
And that makes you trans. So
No, I didn't say it makes you trans.
okay,
It
so
just,
when is it that you have um, a male energy and you're like we're trying to determine how do we know when someone is trans or not?
they'll tell you if they feel safe and comfortable.
But we don't quite know how they're making that determination.
You're gonna have to ask them. Like, I can't answer.
So it's just purely their subjective kind of feeling about it.
Not subjective. They've probably given it a lot of thought.
But we have no way of. You would say though that there's really no way of having some kind of criteria aside from them just saying it that would make this determination.
I think that's kind of silly, to be honest. Why should there be a criteria? Like, people should just be people. Do what you want.
Yeah.
Accept people for who they are spiritually, their soul, their being. Because our bodies are just vessels.
Okay. And what's your thoughts on people who get surgeries to like they feel that they're a female, they got ovaries and so on. They have this sense that they're this energy that they're a man. Should if it's a child, so that can't be. It's not a child.
You know what I'm saying, as far as surgery goes, I feel you need to acknowledge, but I don't. I think children need to wait till they're an adult, okay? Because in my opinion, if you're younger, sometimes when we're teenagers we change our minds a lot.
Okay.
But as far as surgery, I'm all for anyone who wants to do that when they're older and
okay,
like really considered it and explored everything. I don't think people who want to be trans, I don't think, I think they give it a lot of thought. I don't think it's a willy-nilly kind of thing.
But when they're children, they could be mistaken about their feelings about this energy, this male or female energy, and they kind of have to reach adulthood to be certain about it.
I don't feel like they don't know. Like, I feel like knowing some gay people in my life, they knew at a very young age, but hid it.
Okay.
And it wasn't until they were older and more confident that they would come out. Whatever. Yeah.
And is that you see that as being similar to like the homosexuals who are in the closet and don't want to really say that they are homosexual? Do you find that's a parallel between being trans?
That no, I think trans is a separate issue. Okay. Not an issue, but I feel like it's a separate subject. For me, I wouldn't combine the two.
Yeah.
Because, again, multi-layered. Everyone is multi-layered. I was going to say something I forgot.
Okay.
How do you feel about bringing strongly agree and strongly disagree together in the middle, and then we can maybe have a conversation where we can hear each other?
What about a slightly agree?
Oh, yeah, slightly. No.
Have we talked to slightly agree yet?
No.
That's my son.
Oh, I know. He wants to remain anonymous.
Yes.
You don't want
we
to
have had this discussion a fair bit, and it kind of always ends in argument.
Could be fun though with a neutral in the.
No, because he has to come home with me later, and
I understand.
like I'm already alone. Wait till we get home.
You want to have a conversation with me though? Leave your son. Okay, let's do that.
We'll bring this over so that we're having more of a horseshoe kind of thing.
All right, so we're going to have a conversation between a strongly agree and a strongly disagree. All right.
I guess so, man. I don't know.
So we can hear each other.
I will be anonymous, right?
Yep.
All right, perfect. Will this be uploaded to anything?
Yeah, YouTube.
All right. What's the channel?
It is Greg Wycliffe. Greg-W-Y.
Let me just make sure I have you so I can see
as well that Robin is on the
notes. I
slightly
don't check
agree.
notes.
Okay.
All right. What's it
All
called?
right.
G-R-E-G.
So maybe we'll hear from Robin.
Space. W.
Y is in yellow.
Y.
Yeah, top one right there.
Oh, top one.
I wish the cement mixer weren't going.
All right.
I feel like the question is a little bit ambiguous because trans and other, I don't remember the
People can be born trans is the claim. And you're saying that, from what I understand, your argument is that you can have the female sex or the male sex biologically, but you have a kind of women's energy or a man's energy, two spirit, and depending upon which one manifests itself, that will make you either trans or not trans, depending upon, like if you're a female who has a woman's spirit, it's gonna be aligned, so you're not gonna be trans.
I'm trying to.
Sorry about that. Sorry. It's windy.
Some of the terminology that you're using for me isn't working because.
And how is it not, like, I'm just trying to understand.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, so how is it not working? I don't quite know how to phrase it in a way which is more rational.
I'm having the same thought. I'm going to come back to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to include Robin in here, who is going to be on the slightly agree. Matt? So in terms of response to the claim, people can be born trans. You're on.
I'm slightly agree.
You're on the slightly agree.
I'm close to neutral, but
And what makes you on the slightly agree, Matt?
I think first we'd have to define the term.
Okay.
If we think it's a biological term or not.
Okay.
Is it a term that's defined by medication or by hormones or by social influence or whatever? So there's a range of influences that could determine this.
Yeah.
I agree with most of her points that she made. I take a secular position though, so it's not a spiritual thing.
Okay.
I liked what Mia said about propensity towards. I think this is a very important point because you have to define or decide what a propensity towards a particular sexuality or gender or whatever, what it's determined by. And if it's determined by chromosomes or hormones or whatever, you could be born with it. It could happen during birth, and it could affect your brain. And your brain could, and I don't know, I mean, there's a lot of debate about to what extent brain scans show propensity or not. And I know I've seen for and con arguments for that. So the reason why I sit here is because I think that, and I speak about adults here, not children. I totally agree. Children are too young to know. Now, the problem is that if we agree that there are people who are trans, who would become trans when they're adults, they're comfortable with that, however we define it. That means there must be some proportion of children who are going to become trans when they're adults. We don't know which ones they are, and that's the problem, because a child doesn't know, an adult doesn't know about a child.
Okay, but I'm just trying to understand your position. So you think that when you're born, you have a propensity to believe if you're female, you have a propensity to believe without any other influences. It's just innate to believe that you are the opposite sex.
It's possible.
Okay.
It's possible. And a child probably doesn't know what biological sex is at a certain age. So, but they may feel they're a certain way. I would say the vast majority who are male who think they're more girlish, they're probably gay. And vice versa, they're probably lesbians. I think the data show that not the vast majority, but a significant proportion are probably gay or lesbian. So trans is a different, and I agree with you as well. It's a different package. It's not the same thing. They should not be confused whatsoever. You can definitely be born gay or lesbian, in my view. You know, there could be influences that draw you more if you're bisexual to one than the other. But trans is different. I think trans, and if you took away sort of the coaching by parents and so on, if you took away uh, um,
Gender norms.
blockers, if you took away the surgery, and somebody still said, I feel like I'm trans, I have no problem with that. Like and the problem area is, or the question to me is, why would somebody want to undergo all these things if they are naturally feeling to be trans? Why can there not be trans? And I'm not speaking for everyone, obviously. I'm speaking like I have an honest question. Why would you want to go through the process if you feel you're trans? Why can't you be trans in that body?
Yeah, so you're saying that it's likely there's a propensity that you're born with a propensity to believe if you're born a female, you have a propensity to believe that you are male. This exists.
So
You're born that way.
I mean, once you exit the womb, you mean, or like at
Yeah.
a very early age?
No, it's like it's born, so it's like some kind of
We don't know.
some kind of genetic thing
So
that exists.
it could be a genetic thing that's not chromosome, it's not XXXY. It could be hormonal. It could be brain pattern. It could be a natural phenomenon, but a very small minority.
Okay, but you're saying that even if that's the case, like let's say that is the case, why surgeries or exist in this kind of odd state?
I'm just saying that's an option. That should be an option. And given the problematic outcomes of some of those interventions, it probably is a healthier situation.
Do you want to hop in?
Not for all. For some, not to be coached, not to take the hormones, not to take the blockers.
But I don't quite understand why you think that there's this propensity. Like why wouldn't it just be parents influencing their children?
It could be. So let me think. I'm distinguishing two different things here. One is the very small proportion of the population who are naturally, let's say, for the sake of argument, have some propensity. Then there's a larger proportion of the population that we know has been exaggerated by social influence. So if we take the Stats Canada data, that say 0.33% of the population in Canada is trans or non-binary. If we take that as fact, and I'm just saying it's the only data we have.
Sure.
Right? We know that for the population between 15 and 30, it's double that. So there's something going on to that sector of the population that doesn't happen to the overall population. If you go to the United States, the data for the 15 to 30-year-olds is like 5%. So what's going on, such that in Canada it's 0.67%, and in the US it's 5%. That seems to be a social contagion. So that is a totally different subject matter, in my view, than that there are some people who are definitely born with a propensity to be trans, and as an adult would feel more comfortable moving in that direction.
But to be trans or to just be gender non-conforming, people are born.
It's a subset. I would say that's a subset. Trans is a subset of that.
Not even, well, I don't think so. Like the kids who will be labeled trans kids now, that's a cultural label that didn't exist in the past, but they are just, almost all of them would just grow up to be gay or lesbian. the little boys who are the Jazz Jennings type. They're very effeminate.
It's the almost mostly is the point I'm making. I agree with you totally with what you said, but it's that group, that small, tiny group within that wouldn't become gay or
but I actually mean some of them might actually grow up to be heterosexual.
Yes, I agree.
I don't believe any of them grow up to be trans because I don't think it's a type of human being. We culturally created it. But what I'm saying is
that's right.
They're born with being gender non-conforming, and then the gender dysphoria is a response to. It's difficult to stand out as a kid. It's difficult to be different. If you're the little boy who loves ballet, sparkles, Barbie dolls, the kids are going to be mean to you, and you're going to know that you stand out, and that will make you want to be a girl because that's the way you can blend in.
I agree
There's
with you.
your gender dysphoria. That kid's not trans because no one's born trans, but
you're just making that statement, right? You are insisting on that statement. No one's born trans. But you agree there's a propensity for different gender, different sexual orientations, various things, right? So the one that you disagree with is the one where I'm going to actually. And this is why I distinguish between those who transition in the sense of surgery from those who don't have any surgery, don't take blockers, and so on. I think it's a different group of people, right? I'm talking about, so there could be some who say, I feel like I'm a woman, I'm not gay, I'm not, or male that is, or biologically male. I feel like a woman, and that's the way, and I don't want any surgery, that's the way I feel, and I'm going to call myself trans. I have no problem, and I think, it does depend on how you define it, right? If you say there is no such thing as trans in biology, then you are eliminating that option, right? I'm saying I totally agree that that sex is defined by your gonads, and a trans woman who is a male is still a male, but can be trans because that male thinks or wants to think that he is a she, a female.
But just in terms of trying to clarify, you don't necessarily see it as psychological. Like that seems to me the difference. Like Mia would say,
I see it as spiritual.
Yeah, you see it spiritual. There's the one. So you see it as a spiritual. This feeling or whatever has some spiritual character.
Two-spirit,
yeah. Whereas you're saying it's not spiritual.
Well, I'm not spiritual, so I could reuse her term and say it's psychological or it's mentally comfortable or it's your personality or whatever. There's not a big difference. Like why I'm not totally agree is because I think there's a lot of trans people who are children who have been socially influenced to claim that they are trans and they are not in the sense that I'm speaking of. So that's why I'm not way over there. But if you said, is there a tiny percentage who probably have that propensity that even if they don't have surgery, I could sit over there.
And so you would not agree with that though. You would say that there is actually no person who is born who has some kind of propensity to think of themselves in the wrong body. Or in the other, in the body of or they have the identity of the opposite sex.
You see, this is the problem.
They would have to have their experience and grow up because most children don't think of stuff like that. Right. It would have to be when they're older when they start thinking about how they're feeling.
That's a really important point because if you take a let's say a little girl who's playing with trucks and so on. She's not saying I'm trans. She's saying I like to play with trucks. Period. End of story. Right? What she is, we will find out at a later date, and she will tell us what it is. And maybe she's lesbian.
But I don't know. I don't know what is distinguishing. I'm having a hard time.
None of us are talking about the same thing. Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah, well, that's why we needed to
None of
find
us
the
are
term.
using common language.
Yeah.
None of us are talking about the same thing. So, what I am saying is. Trans is not an innate, healthy variation of human existence. It's not. No one is born that way. It is a response to a variety of life challenges that you find yourself in a difficult situation, whether you are a gender non-conforming child, whether you are an adolescent discovering a homosexual identity and you're gender non-conforming, whether you're depressed, whether you're an autogynecophilic man and you have a paraphilia that motivates you. There are a number of reasons why you may land on the label of transgender because it exists in our society right now. But in all of human history, it did not exist. And so in all of human history, all of those people would have just lived as gender non-conforming homosexual, or they would have lived as a man who gets off on wearing women's clothing, but they wouldn't have been trans. But the problem is, in our culture, we have trans as if it's innate and natural. We protect it as a protected characteristic here in Canada. Yeah. We etch it onto the bodies of young people as if it's an innate trait that will never change. Chop the body parts off, do whatever. We're treating it as if it's innate and immutable when it's culturally created and culturally.
Before we go back, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I also think part of the debate is whether we view it as something that's fluid or whether it's something that's permanent. And in honesty, like the party line from their side is it is fluid. They've even mentioned that it's fluid. And can something that's fluid be something that's innate? I don't think so. It's not immutable. There's even been cases, like you brought up the fact that, like, maybe not for children, but there are plenty of people who transition as adults and then they grow much older and then they get dementia or something that alters their mind, and then they're alarmed because they look in the mirror and they don't know why they're a natal male, and they're looking back and they're like, oh my gosh, am I a woman? Like, this isn't right. So there's a lot of cases of adults, once they start declining mind-wise, that they're alarmed about their gender, and you don't get that from people who don't transition.
May I just want to go back to something you said. So read up on them.
Am I allowed to go back in the debate?
You were talking about the childhood.
It's going to be hard to get your face.
Oh, don't worry. I'm fine with it now.
So
okay.
My mother anyways. In their transgender identity, and then they medically transition.
Sure. Try to join the circle next over here. Yeah.
No, I wouldn't narrow it. I wouldn't make it that narrow. Okay. I think you could be trans without being coached by your parents, without the blockers, without the hormones, and without the surgery.
What makes you trans then?
If you think you are trans, it's so there's two things. One is, I mean, if somebody says they're trans, are they trans? Is one of the questions. You know, that's a legitimate question, right? Mm-hmm. I don't buy that because somebody could be faking it. But I'm taking somebody, let's say, who's not. Let's take Jan Morris. Let's take Martin. Everybody knows Jan Morris, the travel writer, formerly James Morris. I don't know. I didn't read her book, but I don't know that when she was alive, that she would have been seen by many people as a nut. She was a very intelligent person. She was very comfortable from what I understand, very comfortable in her transition, and I would say that she is an example of someone who was comfortable with the surgery in the transition process.
So again, we're not talking about the same thing, because to me, I'm talking about is someone innately trans, and you're talking about can medical transition be right for some people? Is that?
No, I'm not quite. I'm not quite saying that. I'm saying that there are different options. So to your question, can it be innate? I think so. A very, very small number of people who, if were never touched, would and yet knew what a male versus female was, could switch.
I have a hard time figuring out what that, like, I'm just trying to understand what that means for trans to be innate. Like, what would that mean? What is that?
It would have to be psychological for sure. It would have to be, if you use the word dysphoria, it's kind of a negative term in a sense. I don't have a problem using the term, but let's say it's a natural minority position, very small minority position, that somebody feels that they're not, whose male feels that they're actually female, even without any coaching and any medication or any surgery. So I cannot eliminate the possibility that that person exists. I've known a small number of trans people. They seem comfortable in their transition. Maybe they won't be at some point. I don't know, right? So, but I can't eliminate, because I don't know that the psychological impulse, or she calls that a spirituality. I wouldn't use that term. That it's not genuine. Like, I don't think everyone is faking it.
I don't think people are faking it, but I don't think having the feeling is enough to say that you're trans. Like, for example, Cotard syndrome is people who feel like they're dead. They honestly to God
understand.
feel that they're dead.
Yeah.
That doesn't make them dead.
Okay, but I get your point.
Yeah.
And there are sexual deviations that we consider to be problematic. Right? I don't see this one, except when imposed on children, as problematic, except for the person who decides to do the surgery. Right? So it's not for me to say that person has it wrong, even though I might think. I certainly wouldn't have done it, but I'm not that person. I can't speak for that person.
But again, I think that's what Mia's getting at, is that we're not looking at the extent to which people accept their choices and so on. Like that's one issue, but that's not. We're trying to pin it down as to, is it something that is
Biological, primarily?
Yeah, I guess that's really, if you're born, it's a biological trait, it seems to me. If you're born that way.
So
that was the whole thing about,
you,
just to do the parallel with homosexuality, was the kind of the battle about that, is homosexuality just a choice that people make because of culture or something, or is there just a certain percentage of the population that has that innate kind of characteristic?
I could answer that.
Okay.
So
you want to be on film now?
Sure, I'll be on film.
Anonymous is back. Let's go.
I know. Thank you. Homosexuality is, from what statistics are, so homosexuality usually happens when a child is abused.
Oh.
No.
Supposedly. Supposedly. However,
We'll be respectful.
I do admit homosexuality is a choice. And it is, no, not a choice. Sometimes it's innate for people. You can't really choose who you are attracted to.
About that?
Can't really.
I mean,
It's okay, take your time.
Yeah, I'm gonna take my time. Hold on. It's a very touchy subject for both me and my mother. It's homosexuality. Just people, move on to somebody else.
Okay.
I woefully misunderstood what the question was.
Okay.
Yeah, hold
no
on.
worries.
The reason why I was bringing that up is not because I'm trying to say that they're equivalent or anything, but I'm just trying to say that in the debates that went on about homosexuality, it was argued very strongly that it was innate. That there was a very strong argument with that. Now with trans, we're not sure, or there's very different views on whether it is something that is biological and something that you're born with, or whether it's something, as I think which is Mia is arguing, which is culturally determined.
Culturally determined, and it's a psychological response. I mean, I'm going to say it's a psychiatric disorder, or it's a paraphilia.
Pardon?
And those are the two reasons why a person would come to the conclusion that they are transgender. Now, the psychiatric disorder can be in response to whatever life challenges you have. And
Did you want to come in?
if you look at the symptom pool, which is this wonderful concept by medical historian Edward Shorter, the symptom pool is just the recognized set of disorders in your culture at your time. And so if you're distressed and you hate your body, maybe you're just going through puberty, you can select trans from the symptom pool because it's in the symptom pool of our time. But it's always a response to some kind of psychological trouble or difficulty in life. And so you may know people for whom transition was right, or identifying as trans is right, but there's a reason why each one of those people came to the conclusion that they want to live as members of the opposite sex, and it's not an innate reason, it's a psychological reason or a paraphilia.
In terms of the evidence for that, is what makes you so sure that it is this psychological response to whatever's going on?
Or if it's psychological, why would it not be innate? The two are not exclusive of each other, right?
I guess
you could be born with a psychological proclivity towards a certain thing. So I want to ask you another question because you raised this. Let's take the gay lesbian phenomenon.
Then after that, we're going to go to Roots sweater, and then we're going to go to I Love Turfs t-shirt.
Oh, I Love Turfs. I want to bring in I Love Turfs.
Why did you distinguish? Why did you distinguish the phenomenon of trans from gay lesbian? then, because like I think it's a natural phenomenon. It's 4% of the population. We capture most of that group. So why would you not think that trans has similar attributes, but a much smaller percentage of the population?
Did you want to go?
I'm jumping with the answer. You can, the reason why it's different from being gay and trans is that you can actually measure gayness in a person. You can measure whether they experience arousal. You can see it in their brain. It is something that has concrete evidence that exists. Transness, gender identity, that has not been mapped out on the brain at all.
Some argue that you can do brain scans and you can see it.
The only study that people claim to, in the study, they said, okay, compared to males, trans women, and they got a specific type of trans women. They got ones that were preference was, I'll get to that in a moment, but the very specific type of trans woman. And they're their brains are similar to women. And there was some similarities, it wasn't exact, but at the same time, even though their brains were more similar to women than men, their brains were actually most similar to gay men. So what was being tracked wasn't gender identity, it was arousal.
Well, you said that. But
yeah, it's
sexual orientation. You can argue the other way, right?
But I think that's kind of it seems to me that would be one piece of evidence that could result in people saying, okay, I'd be more accepting of this kind of argument.
And in that
because
study,
if there was some way of determining that there was some characteristic of the brain that was aligned
if
with
there was, I would
trans.
definitely move, because if we lived in a world where we could do a brain scan and concretely say that someone was trans, then I'd be more...
Where would you move to?
I would probably, honestly, depending on how concrete this evidence was, I might even move to agree or slightly degree, depending on so.
Right, okay.
Because if we had a concrete to diagnose this, then you know what, suddenly these operations might have more cost to them. But we don't, and we don't put any sort of measurement to whether a person is trans when they say they're trans.
If trans was actually a biological symptom or biological in nature, then I would absolutely agree that surgery would be an option. But that's just not true. The matter of the fact is that it's mental in nature, and it's always been mental in nature. You choose if you want to mutilate your genitals.
The mental is biological.
All right, let's get the person with the spiciest t-shirt on into the circle.
Finally.
I love TERFs. Have you been following along? What do you think of all this? What do you think of all this?
Well, here's also a bit of context. I am a lesbian, so would you like to hear my perspective on this as the resident Mo of the circle?
Absolutely.
So, no, I don't believe someone could be born trans, mostly because to me, as an observation, it has been a social contagion, okay? My ex-fiance transitioned after a traumatic event, then her mother died, so she immediately decided to throw herself into that because that was the easiest way of maintaining contact with a community, right? Lonely, isolated people are going to fall into things when they are vulnerable, and people prey on that, and people did prey on that. She transitioned. Now, maybe about 4 or 5 other people in her immediate social circle, including her sister, also transitioned, because generally they're mostly online. They live in a very myopic echo chamber, right? The same thing can be seen in many spaces, okay, so on Reddit, that's going to be an echo chamber. You're constantly being fed back a loop of your own feelings, your own opinions, whether or not they're actually rooted in reality, right? So again, it comes back down to loneliness and community when it comes down to the social contagion. I have never met a single person in my life or heard of a single person in my life who was born trans. It is always an adopted idea. And even with the idea of the trans kid, have you ever heard of the concept of a vegan cat? Because you know that cat is not in control of the diet. It's the owner. In this case, for the child, it would be the parent. The parent is at the driving wheel. If they buy into the ideology and their child goes, I don't feel like a girl, mommy. Of course they're gonna go, you know what, we're gonna do everything we can to make sure that you're the little boy that you think you are. Does that child really have much of a concept beyond, I like the things that those boys over there like? I want to do the things that the boys are doing, or I want to play in the way that the boys are doing. That's just a tomboy, right? They're not mentally male. There's nothing mentally male about that. It's just they want to go do those fun activities. And so a lot of the times young girls will project that and be like, I want to be a boy too. No, they just want to go do little boy things. But at this point in time, they should realistically be able to do that without being questioned or enforced upon an ideology that has nothing to do with being an actual child. Like, we are so obsessed with controlling whether or not, like, this activity is for boys, this activity is for girls, and we're trying to, like, people are out here trying to say, like, oh, we celebrate gender nonconformity, but you're still forcing kids into a binary of one or the other. Like, oh, if you're a girl and you play with boy toys, then you must be a boy. If you're a boy who likes to play with, like, girls' clothes, then you must be a girl. It's still a binary, but that's still an adopted mentality from the parents, not the child.
Yeah, so what about in terms of evidence, in terms of you becoming less certain about your position? Is there any evidence that would make you less on the strongly disagree, Matt?
No. I'm very, like, I'm someone who's very, very confident in the fact that no, like, you cannot be born trans. It is a choice.
What if I produced a brain scan showing a commonality amongst trans women that, in other words, men who transition to women, that show female so-called, I'm using that term loosely here, obviously, brain characteristics that would be consistent with if they thought they were women. If I were able to...
Are you talking about males?
Males who transition to females.
Males who so you're talking about in adult life?
Yes.
Not
no, I'm not.
born.
I'm taking children off of this story.
No, because that's not how we started. This is about being born this way.
There's two separate questions. I'm taking children out
I'm
in
answering
terms
the question
of...
we're supposed to be answering.
Well, it's related.
I'm not talking about adulthood. I'm talking about birth.
Okay.
Well,
at first,
what's your hypothetical, real quick?
If I, well, could you do a brain scan of an infant? You don't know what the child is thinking.
Can the scan study that you are talking about specifically be replicated successfully multiple times? I don't think it can even think. Can it? Are you saying that for certain?
No, I'm saying, no, I'm not. I'm saying, if I were able to produce for you that data, would you change your mind?
That's a hypothetical, though. You
Yes,
can't replicate that.
It's a hypothetical.
We're trying to just think about possible.
But that's why I'm here.
A thought experience.
You don't even want to entertain it.
It's a male-bodied
Yeah, you don't wanna do
person.
it.
You're still trying to convince a homosexual that a male-bodied individual can think that
agree.
they are female. They're not.
I'm not. I didn't say that. I said biologically, a male is a male, and a female is a female.
Yeah.
If they transition, they're still biologically what they were born.
They're
but
still
they may
male.
They may perceive themselves as trans. The question is, that psychological perception.
It's a psychological perception.
Correct. Psychology is also biological. It comes out of your biology. It comes out of cells. It also comes out of interaction with society. Therefore, you can be influenced by society, right? I'm just saying, if you take an infant who has zero, has no. Okay. I thought you said that we had to talk about.
I know, but you're flip-flopping now. So pick one lane.
We take
and we'll go from
an
there.
infant that has just been born, and are able to do a brain scan and can determine that a male infant has brain scans that are very similar to female, and as you watch them, they decide that they're trans as an adult.
They decided.
It's all hypothetical. I'm creating the package.
You're talking about David Bowie.
I'm just saying, like, it's you and I are on the same page that they are still male. That doesn't change. Like, a thought doesn't change the fact that you're like the act. Hold on. A thought does not change the fact that your physical reality dictates that you are still male.
Correct.
So we are on the same page.
Yes.
That,
on that question.
evidence of these brain scans wouldn't change the
No,
fact
it
that
wouldn't
they're
change your
male.
biological sex.
I know.
But I'm not saying it's biological sex. I'm saying...
But biological sex...
It's not your gonads. It's not whether you've got sperm or eggs. It's rather whether you have a psychological
propensity.
propensity.
Thought does not dictate actual reality.
It sure does for a lot of people.
Wait, what does
So
it?
if I think I am a wacky waving arm flailing inflatable tube man, then I must be one, right?
No, I wouldn't use that. I wouldn't say that was
That's
true.
but that's essentially what you're saying. You're saying this thought for a lot of people dictates whether or not.
Yeah.
But we know that's not
the
true.
waving balloon man.
No, but you're invalidating her
That's essentially
identity.
what you were saying.
You're
Like, if I
invalidating
think
her
this-
I would
identity.
invalidate that
think
one because I don't think there's any data for that one.
He's invalidating
I
you.
don't think there's
I
data
don't,
for
I
that.
don't, I don't actually, for you, I don't actually believe that I'm a wacky waving arm flailing inflatable tube man.
If you produced a brain scan,
That was
you can
interesting to
convince
me to be, from what we were talking about with everyone, that kind of tangible marker would allow some people to become more changeable in their
I think so.
attitudes about
I
this
think
issue.
so.
Because what we have now, what we were talking about before, was it's just this feeling that someone has, and we have no way of determining is that feeling legitimately tied to something that can be universally, agreed upon, or
Measured,
just
or
sort of a spontaneous thing that I just have.
Can I ask you a question? Since you've defined what you think is it's by feeling, essentially psychological feeling, and this is a real example of people who exist like this. Is someone who feels like they should be blind, are they blind or should they be?
No, not if they're not blind.
So what is the difference then if someone thinks that they're female and they're not actually female?
I don't know that it's a perfect equation there. I mean, I take your point.
Yeah.
And it's the same point that she was making.
We do the same thing with race too, though. Like Rachel Dolezal is an example, is a white woman who thinks she's black. And there's other celebrities. Who was it? Gwen Stefani for a while was pretending she was a Japanese woman. I don't.
So
that's what I'm saying. The thought doesn't make it true.
If it can be proved, I mean, I just read Helen Joyce's book,
But let's say,
which I really enjoyed, and I saw no errors in her book. Just to let you know, Helen Joyce's book has no errors in it. I just lost my train here.
It's about you're getting onto the brain scans.
yeah, the person who thinks they're blind, if there was a brain scan that showed the part of their brain that thought they were blind, does that make it legitimate?
No, not necessarily, because obviously blindness is determined by something else, right?
Sex is determined by your body.
On the case of trans, but the case of trans is not the same, because it is primarily a thinking psychological process. It's not an eyeball. It's not a physical thing, right?
Blindness is actually determined by something, but transness is a belief. But if you believe it, it's still valid for some reason. But if this person believes that they're blind, despite the fact that they're not.
So I got a great hypothetical that I want to ask everyone. But before, you brought up something that I think is like so crucial to this topic, which is you brought up like kind of people being chronically online and then filling their. So like, how big of a role do you think that plays in this cultural contagion today?
A lot. It's like this is what was the phrase I said earlier? It's a myopic echo chamber, right? Like you're constantly going to be fed back your own opinion if you are never looking for opinions that might disprove you, right? Like I talk to a lot of different people every single day. Like it's funny to me after having this last election, so many people coming up to me assuming that I voted liberal. No, I absolutely voted conservative because they were the only party that was willing to sit and listen to me, which is funny enough because you would think that the liberals would want to hear from their constituents, right? No, they don't. They don't want to. They want to drive forth a narrative. Same with people in these types of echo chambers. They want to drive forth a narrative.
Right.
Gay history is being rewritten. Canadian history is being rewritten to suit these specific narratives. Why? Because there are so many of these people sitting in these echo chambers, twiddling their thumbs, thinking that this is the right thing to do. It's generally, no, it's not. Like you're inviting a lot of change and inviting a lot of chaos in a time that it's already chaotic.
So a couple more things. When it comes to like being chronically online, it makes me think of a couple things. Pornography is online. People are becoming addicted to their phones, potentially porn as well. And then along with that, I feel like a defense mechanism that a lot of like pro-trans or pro-trans kids people say is, no, this has nothing to do with sex, right?
Okay, that's another fun thing. Spend about 5 minutes on Lex in Ottawa. You will find a grown adult in their 30s specifically looking for people of the age of 13 years old so that they can mentor them about their sexual orientation or gender identity. Does that seem appropriate?
What's Lex? What's Lex?
Lex is a queer app. It's essentially queer Twitter, right?
Okay.
Like minus blue sky. And like you can go on this app here in Ottawa. There was someone like in their mid-30s that claimed to be a counselor specifically looking for youth of the age of 13 years old so that they could mentor them. And I'm saying like, okay, you can't control what your kids are up to like outside of the house. You definitely can't control who they're talking to online. And when they're in spaces like Discord, where they're having people being like, oh, don't worry, I can coach you through this. They're absolutely being set up to be groomed by predators, and predators are looking for these opportunities everywhere. That's why we had, like I brought this up earlier talking to someone else, 2 years ago, Faye Johnstone and friends had like that little petty party parade wandering down the street advocating against parental guardianship, right? Like these echo chambers breed these kinds of ideas because they think like the most basic thing about being a child or being disciplined as a child, like clean your fucking room, is abuse. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I talked to Faye Johnstone and I asked her the question as she was walking by, like, you know, can you be born trans? She couldn't give me an answer. Why do you think she couldn't give me an answer? Being like this kind of Marvel superhero of Canada.
Zachary Johnstone knows he is a gay man, and he's talked about this. And I have a recording of him talking about this while he was drunk on stage having a Faye Johnstone question hour. He knows he's a gay man. He knows.
Case closed. All right, I had a hypothetical. I think it might kind of close off.
On the social contagion thing, I totally agree with what you
Okay,
said.
sure.
That it's very likely that the vast majority of people who claim to be trans are not trans.
Right. So here's I think a great hypothetical that we can end with, I think, potentially, and that is there's someone who is younger and they transition younger, okay, and then they decide to detransition. So this kind of presents the question: were they born trans and then like kind of reject their trans ideology later, or their trans identity later on by detransitioning? Or were they never born trans?
That's an easy one to answer.
Okay.
And so no, they weren't. They were not trans. But the ones who don't detransition and who are happy with what they did, whether there's surgery or not, is the point here. Right? If there's surgery, the repercussions of having surgery are much more dramatic and potentially damaging. But if somebody doesn't have surgery, doesn't take blockers, doesn't take the hormones, sees themselves as trans, lives trans, whatever that means in that context, there's no harm done.
Sure, but it kind of goes back to that whole question of like, is trans just a feeling, or is it like an innate thing that you're born as, right?
That's dismissive, right? So feeling is like something superficial that you just sort of come up with on the whim. I think most people who
the feelings are powerful, though.
Absolutely. So I would go more than feeling. It's a serious self-perception. Based on certain realities.
Sure.
How much is biological is the question that we're talking about. The part that is social or as a result of influence that wouldn't otherwise come, we might want to dismiss that. Although you could also say that there may be some people who would be trans if the bigotry against them weren't so large.
Right. Did you want to share your comments on that hypothetical?
Well, I wanted to address what you had said beforehand about the people who say it's not about sex. Were you referring about like the difference between sex and gender?
Not really, actually. I guess I was, but you can comment on that either way.
I find when people say it's not about sex, it's gender, and I'm very surprised about this because we all seem to agree, at least mostly, that sex is not the same as gender.
Sure.
Sex is a biological thing, and gender is hard to define and completely a social construct. And they agree it's a social contract, which confuses me because why would you abide by a social contract? Social contracts change depending on the culture, the time, the location you live in. They're constantly changing. I don't understand why we put all these rights to something that is a social construct.
It's not entirely a social construct, because there's a very large correlation between your biological sex and your gender. It's not a coincidence that 95% of people who are heterosexual are either males or females who see themselves that way.
Right. No, but I would disagree with that because I know drag queens, and like although they're born biologically male, they can put on all of the feminine characteristics.
I know, but that's gender. I'm not talking about. I'm saying if you want to include drag queens as a particular category, I don't know, cross-dressers or whatever you want to call them. Maybe I'm misusing the term. That's still a gender phenomenon. That's not a biological phenomenon. There's still a huge correlation.
No, well, it's a dressing up as a woman phenomenon. What do you mean?
So you're still male or female.
Right, but they look like women because they perform feminine. They present feminine traits.
That's a gender phenomenon.
Right, but where does the biology come into that if they successfully pull off like?
It doesn't. I'm saying when I say there's a high correlation, I'm not saying it's 100% correlation. There are people who are lesbians and gays, for instance, are males or females who have sexual love for the same sex. That's a gender phenomenon, not a sex.
Not a sexual orientation thing.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
sexual
but it's
orientation.
related.
But I do get what you.
Gender are not the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I
You're-
get
you're
what
right,
you.
but I think my point is still valid.
Yeah, I get what you mean though, that like gay people and lesbian people, they tend to, on average, be non-gender conforming. That is a phenomenon that is documented very well.
Almost by definition.
Yes, it does exist. But what does that have to do with anything? Why can't a man just be a feminine man? Why can't we have a masculine
They
woman?
should be able to be.
Yes, but we live in a society
No,
right
no,
now
no,
where
no.
if you are a masculine woman,
I
you
don't
must
disagree.
be a man.
That wasn't the point I was making. I was
Okay.
saying that you
In
can't
some
say
cases,
there's no
in
correlation
some cases,
between
right.
gender and sex.
Yeah.
Because there's a high proportion of people who are male who act like men, right? And females who act like women, masculine, yeah. So
it's highly correlated.
it's highly correlated.
But it doesn't mean
And
it
same
has
with
to be.
gender identity, not just gender, but gender. There's also a high correlation between gender and gender identity.
Did you have any
It's not
questions you wanted to ask him?
Honestly, I was only half listening to the last little bit.
Okay.
Someone else
I think
asked
we're
me a
getting
question.
kind of
Okay.
probably exhausted of.
Been interesting,
I
though.
wanted to ask you about your shirt.
Yeah.
We'll have some.
Very cool. Very cool. Very cool. So, what's the meaning behind the shirt? Why are you wearing the shirt?
I love TERFs. Well, once again, TERFs are literally the only people that are willing to actually just leave lesbians be. They're not trying to police us. They're not trying to bully us or wrangle us into being bisexual. Actually, there was one that was here earlier that was asking me about the phenomenon of the trans lesbian, and I was like, oh yeah, that's literally just because lesbians are probably one of the most vulnerable groups of women out of bisexuals and heterosexuals. It's generally predatory. That's why they come after us, because it's like getting a trophy.
So the trans women is like the men
If
who
you're
are
a male and you suddenly identify as a lesbian and you're specifically going after lesbians, I hate to break it to you, but you're a fucking rapist. You heard it here first.
news.
You're a rapist.
This just in. Breaking news. Breaking
So
news.
When it comes to I love TERFs, it's no, genuinely, those are the only people that I am willing to give the time of day
Yeah.
at this point in time. Like, if you are someone who considers yourself to be a trans, exclusionary, radical feminist, I want to talk to you. I want to hang out. I want to meet you.
Yeah.
For real.
Have you heard of Redux Mag?
Yes.
Shout out to Redux one time.
Shout out to Redux.
Like, what do you like about them? Sell
Oh my
them.
gosh, you're hitting all the topics that we're not allowed to talk about in CBC or CTV. Again, companies that I have worked for once upon a time.
Oh, wow.
This is security, it's not a big thing, but like I like the fact that we get to touch on subjects that they will continuously dance around and put like their own like happy little spin narrative that we know is factually untrue.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Redux, we're here for you.
And for like, did you watch the flag raising thing?
Yeah, I was just a few feet behind you guys. I was trying to see over top. That's as close as I have ever been to an actual vampire, Mark Carney. I felt my youth being drained from me. It was bizarre.
That's what that feeling was. Okay.
Yeah, it got cold. It was weird. I thought that whole flag, like that whole ceremony thing was a little bizarre. I don't know why it started off with like, was that like an Indigenous children's story? What was that? I don't have a problem with like
Don't look at me.
people in general, but I'm just saying like that was a strange way to begin that.
It felt very like he was a pastor.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
You're sermonizing to me. It was just really weird.
Yeah.
So for me, I was like, okay. And then for the fact that they were standing there being like, Canada needs to be a place for everyone to be safe and blah 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 blah. And I'm standing there like, me? Does that count? Does that include me? Because so far, I am being punished in the job market. I can't fucking get a job because of the beliefs that I hold, because it goes against the policy that our government is enforcing in literally every workplace, right?
That's crazy.
Like any DEI, gender equity, like inclusion, blah, like that stuff.
Blah.
You always have to sign something when you're going into a new workplace, regardless of whether or not you believe in it. Like, it's just one of those things that is just being push. So being here today and listening to them talk about how, yes, we are all free and we all have the rights that it's so much horseshit. It is so much horseshit. Is Canada even a real place?
Yeah. And like, at one point, that Pride movement maybe actually meant something to lesbians and gay? Like how did you feel seeing that specific flag be raised? Like, what kind of goes through your mind as you're kind of seeing this happen? Like, what does it mean to you now, the Pride flag?
It means about as much to me as the gum on the bottom of my shoes. Okay, I used to participate in Pride when I first came out, like in my early 20s. And even back then, like that was when kink started being incorporated into Pride, BDSM started being incorporated into Pride. You started seeing a lot more inappropriate things out in the street.
Right.
That is meant to be a joyful celebration for everyone to participate in. Now, when I go to Pride, can you explain to me why there's like pin the vulva?
No.
Like pin the there was a game was pin the vulva on the pussy, and then there was another one that was ring toss on a bunch of dildos.
Yeah.
These were the games that were designed for kids.
No.
I'm not kidding. These were the games that were designed for kids.
Sigh.
Yeah.
Long sigh.
So when I think about Pride now, I just think of sexual degeneracy and more advocacy for things I don't believe in and choose not to associate myself with.
Yeah, it's like, it's about the same sex loving each other. It's
Loving
like,
each other.
Why are they
not actually like,
whipping each other?
Pride bumming in the street. Like, that's not what we were about. If you want to, no, read it at home, man. If you're gonna have sex at Pride, do it at home.
Yeah.
What is wrong with you? I'm not here for the voyeurism. I don't like that.
One last question for you would be, someone who is at this event today, who's very much like maybe they have trans kids, or maybe they have a friend who has a trans kids. They're deep in the sauce.
Yeah.
Like, what's the one thing that you would try to say to like get through to them?
Oh, that's a heavy one.
Yeah.
I'm not that
Can you
quick.
solve this problem? Yeah, it is kind of a big ask, right?
Okay, so assuming it's like their kids or like they have kids, they're teenagers or something like that, like I would have to ask them, is supporting something like this so blindly worth medicalizing your child for the rest of their life and shortening their life by maybe a good 30 years? Is that worth supporting this just because it's the right thing to do at the time?
Yeah, I think blindly supporting is a good
support.
Good adverb.
We really, really need to start scrutinizing, especially the medical processes. Those are things that desperately need to be looked at, especially if you're a parent. Because if you're pushing it on blindly, you don't always know what the consequences of medicalization is going to be.
Sure.
There's risks that come with it, things that are happily ignored when you're going through the process, and then years later they become consequences that catch up with you, and we're seeing that now with the detransitioners. And the detransitioners are not getting the medical support that they need on top of that. So is that worth it?
Yeah. And speaking of which, I feel like every time I bring up the detransitioner talking point, they're like, oh no, it's a myth, the numbers aren't even that bad, that's crazy talk.
So the numbers aren't even that bad, it's crazy talk. So not that long ago, the numbers for trans people used to be less than 1%. Now we're trying to claim that it's over 4% of the population.
That's wild.
So if the numbers aren't that bad, if the numbers for trans people can grow that big, that quickly, do you not think the numbers of detransitioners can do the same?
Yeah. Did you want to plug any social media or anything, or shout out to any of your TERFs out there?
No, I'm really not big on social media. I'm not the type of person that likes to stay online too much. If you see me out and about, feel free to say hi.
Cool.
I'm friendly like that.
Awesome. Well, yeah, unless there's something you want to add, like, thanks so much for participating. I saw you with the shirt on. I'm like, I hope she comes to say something, I'm like, yeah.
I mean, I'm out here.
All right, cool. Awesome.
Nice talking to you.
Yeah, thank you. Cheers. All right, do you want to wrap up this live stream? Let's do a quick huddle. We're still live streaming, yeah. So what did you think? Yeah.
I thought it was somewhat chaotic because we went to University of Ottawa and then we came over here we had a lot of. Thank you so much. Of course.
You can still talk to him. I just want you to record it with the good camera.
Yeah. So I was a bit discombobulated. I've got to admit, and there's so many moving parts. But I thought there were some great conversations that took place, and this is the kind of thing that needs to happen. So but I don't know how successful it was in terms of drilling down into the assumptions.
Yeah. So it was confusing because I don't think we ever managed to speak the same language, and it's always a problem because it's so hard to find trends, and so nobody was ever really talking about the same thing at the same time, as far as I can tell. The mother-daughter battle or disagreement, that I think just added a really hilarious element, and they were lovely, and she left thinking that she was going to think about a lot of things that she's heard, so that's a success. But it's just, I think, laying down the terms and everybody making sure that they're talking about the right thing is how you have a successful conversation, and I don't think we
I think it was successful in the sense that everyone kind of left with more interesting thoughts in their head than when they came. But I think it's correct what Mia was saying, that I was getting more and more kind of confused about how to where to proceed, like what's the next step to go to, which does happen, especially if you've got lots of people that are involved and you're not really tracking what's being talked about.
I felt like there was a lot of sort of like speaking past each other. Excuse me.
But the brain scan was interesting. That seems to come up time and time again.
I didn't get to weigh in on the brain scans. I could have weighed in on
So
the
what
brain
was your thoughts on
What's
brain?
way in now?
Well, I didn't hear what they were saying.
Well, they're saying that if we could get some linkage between the brain and people who believe that they will be trans, then this would move us closer to having some kind of objective, kind of actual identity that was rooted in something that was tangible, as opposed to just being a feeling that someone has.
Okay.
So that would make them move more towards the born trans position if you could get a brain scan that was linked to the trans identity.
Well, sure, but that's like saying if you can find something that detects auras, then I'll believe in auras.
Yeah, but that's kind of the evidence. Like it's, for me, it's a little bit interesting to try to get people to think about, like, almost in terms of this idea of falsifiability.
There you go, it's completely unfalsifiable.
Falsifiability, there isn't any of that in trans discussion.
Well, I told the guy, if it's just a feeling, and he's like, whoa, that's like so, he said dismissive or something to call it just a feeling, and I'm like, well,
what is it?
It seems pretty fleeting, like, it's something that's powerful. We feel feelings, and it's like they're hard to measure. It's quite a mess. Like the conversation, I'm like, man, this really is a mess when people are coming from, biological, physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, and it's like, it's crazy.
I thought it was a little bit chaotic, but still, it's these things are successes just by happening. It's kind of like we're trying to say, look, this is not a taboo subject. This is an important social concern that we should be addressing, and this allows us to do it, whereas in other contexts you can't. Like in the universities, for example, it's really, really hard.
Well, sure, and I think our little commentary on the flag raising generated some strong feelings, and probably some people went away thinking about us.
Yeah, you had you had a gay guy behind you being like, stop being hateful, you're being hateful, stop it. And I was like, sir, you're the one being disruptive right now, if you haven't noticed. That was my favorite part of the day.
Well, and I had there was a man who came up to me and took a photo right in my face with his phone and took a photograph.
Yeah.
And in a very, trying to intimidate me, said, that's so I know who you are. As if I care.
Well, and that's, like you said, it's meant to intimidate.
Of course. Idiot.
Anyway, I think
it's time for a drink.
Time for a drink.
Time for a drink. All right, I'll wrap up this live stream then. Thanks so much. That's it, folks. That's all. Guys, let me just unplug this. I hope you enjoyed the stream. Shout outs to Mia Hughes. Shout outs to Francis Widdowson. I'm getting tired. I gotta drink something. But guys, if you enjoyed this stream, oh man, send a donation. Send a donation to givesendgo.com/savefreespeech. givesendgo.com/savefreespeech if you enjoyed the stream. There's a lot of content coming down the pipe. I know I haven't been very active. I'm working on this documentary. It's a bigger project. It's not just going to be a YouTube video, guys. It's going to be broadcast ready submitted to film festivals, and there's a lot of work to do. I'm lining up a bunch of big interviews, which I'm excited about, and there's a lot to pay for as well. I'm going to be going out west, interviewing some folks you've definitely heard of. So not just for this stream, but to support that documentary, go to givesendgo.com/savefreespeech. And yeah, thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks for watching. And until next time, talk to you soon.